Buenos dias, Gunners Collective. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking edit addict. Bye, bye, bye. In a menudo style in direct fashion, man, you already see the thumbnail there, so you know what we're getting into. But before we get into the story of the day, man, can you please hit that like and subscribe button? Put your notification bell on all, so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that I'm kicking, man. And I highly appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much, man. I've been getting a lot of support. Everybody's into these reactions, man, and we're going to continue those. But I wanted to tell a little story, man. I got to talking to a homie yesterday, and we were telling old war stories, and I remembered one. Now, the homie's a little paisa. He's from Oaxaca. Good dude, man. You know, I haven't talked to him in a very, very long time. You know, I was talking to my primo. My primo said he asked about me, gave me his number, so I reached out, and we started to conversate, you know. And he was asking me about the paisas in prison, because this is a cat that's never been in the pen. Nothing like that, man. A hardworking man for his familia, like almost all the paisas are, right? But at the same time, he's very, you know, into his people and his culture. So he wanted to know exactly how the paisas rock. So I gave him a little rundown, and then we started getting into the story, and I thought that if for no other reason, I should put it out there for you guys. So, you know, paisas versus paisas. It's very rarely seen, man. Usually the paisas, because they're one of the smaller cars in prison, they stick together. Stick together like fucking glue, homie. And, you know, no matter what, you know, what people say and what type of different stories they're going to give you, you know, for the truth, the facts are that paisas rock with the Southsiders. Meaning, man, if the Southsiders get involved in a mix, more than likely the paisas are going to roll with them, man. The paisas are going to be somehow involved. Now, that doesn't mean they're involved in every different melee. That doesn't mean that they're involved in all the different things that, you know, the Southsiders got going on. But 99 times out of fucking 100, you know, you're going to see them function with them. They function on that same side of the yard. You know, there's a lot of interaction, and that's because, you know, quietly as it's kept, a lot of the Southsiders, man, identify as Mexicano. A lot of them identify as Sureño Mexicano. You know, coming from Mexico, they have an extensive family in Mexico. Los Angeles, San Diego, San Bernardino, that area being close to the border. You know, they definitely are in touch with their culture, their roots, and they got love for the Mexicanos. Now, I remember a while back seeing this documentary about San Quentin, man, and I didn't like the way they put the paisas in a derogatory, you know, there was a derogatory overtone when it came to talking about the paisas. You know, talking about they got the little area by the latrine and the toilets because it stinks, and, you know, trying to make the Mexicans look bad. Here we go again. That's not the case, man. You know, the paisas are a very well-respected group within the prison system. They're a very well-respected group in life. You know, I know they get a lot of hatred, and they get a lot of, there's a lot of people that, you know, base their assumptions just on what they see in the news, you know, with cartels and things of that nature. But not every paisa is involved in that, man. You know, a lot of them just find themselves incarcerated for one reason or another. And, you know, they stick to their own. Just like any other group, man, there's so much racial overtones that you have to stick with your gente, your people. And that's what they do. So anyways, I was in Jamestown prison. And, you know, this prison, man, it was a lightweight 3-yard. Nothing real vicious, nothing real crazy about it. Wasn't too much going on. Every once in a while, man, somebody would get off on the yard. Every once in a while, man, you would see a stabbing. But it wasn't like this yard was particularly rocking. You know, it wasn't like a 4-yard or 180. It was basically, you know, just go do your time and get the fuck on. I liked it because there was a lot of homies from Merced, from my Merced County. There was a lot of people from the Central Valley. It was kind of like a Central Valley headquarters. So I could identify with the gente there, with the homies. Now, at the same time, in this particular prison, there happened to be a lot of paisas. And you don't really see much more than about 15 to 20 of them. You know, if they're lucky, that's about the largest their numbers get. But there was probably about 30 or 40 of them at this time. So large that they used to always go to the middle of the yard and make a soccer field and play soccer. Anyone that's ever done time with the paisas, they don't play the basketball, homie. You stay away from the basketball court, paisa, right? They stick to soccer, man. They go with what they know. So you can see them hanging out on the soccer field pretty much from the motherfucking morning, from morning yard till, you know, a yard shut down. That's where they were going to be at, man. And them games get pretty heated. You know, them games, it's like watching the Africanos on the basketball court, man. There's a lot of back and forth. I've seen several fights. You know, motherfuckers get into it. They act like they're playing in the NBA, homie. They're very serious about it, especially in prison. People are very serious about sports. There's a lot of Gene going on, a lot of people betting. Anyways, you know, these paisas would hold it down. And they were one big car. And, you know, I used to talk to a few of them, man. They were cool. There was one vault in there. He used to put together these little bowls. Now, I couldn't fuck with it. and eat after them. But at the same time, I used to be envious of them motherfuckers, right? He used to make these flaming hot Cheetos with the little lime juice that they sold in the packages. Man, little queso, little tapatio, that shit was popping, right? I could see it from a distance, like, damn. I tried to make it, but I'm sure mine didn't taste like his. His shit was straight, he was on some chilango shit. His shit was bomb. My shit was bam or weed. Anyways, you know, I used to talk to a few of them, and they were good people, good gente. And in fact, on this yard at this particular time, the biggest dude on the yard, because everybody always knows there's the biggest dude on the yard. You know, you might think Wes Watson and these characters you see on YouTube are big, but I'm talking about some monsters, homie, some big boys. The biggest guy on the yard was from DF. He was from Mexico City. He was a big cat, all sleeved down, man, had been down for like 20 years, and had a date coming soon, you know. That dude was a big old monster. I remember, man, he was very well respected by the Southsiders. He was always intermingling with the Southsiders. Didn't really kick it too much with the paisas, but was a paisa, you know. So anyways, they had their little crew, their group, and they'd be arguing and playing and fighting and whatever on the you know, the soccer field. And this particular day, man, you know, one thing about Mexicans is for some reason they don't get along with Salvadorians. Okay, it's been like that for a long time. I'm sure you've heard about it. You know, there's that beef, man. I don't know where it stems from, but there's a hatred between the two groups. So anyways, there was like probably about 4 or 5 Salvadorians, and they wanted to get involved in the soccer game, and these paisas were kind of like pushing them off, like, hey, make your own little team, make your own little team. They already had their 2 teams. So these guys were like, fuck it, homes. They went and got, you know, a couple Sureños involved, a couple other little paisas that were just like, whatever. And they started dominating, homes, and they were good, right? And I started to see the mix. I started to see these paisas were getting upset with it. You know, they were talking shit, you know. And one thing about the paisas is their politics are a little bit different. They fly under the flag of the Sureños, so pretty much they're going to go with their political views. But at the same time, man, they have their own inner turmoil. They have their own little shit going on. So I can see that they're fucking gathering up and talking. They're mad, homes, because they're getting beat, right? And you know how it is when you're getting beat at something, you just want to kill the motherfucker, right? So, you know, one of these paisas gets into one of these vatos from El Salvador, and they start arguing, man, and they start throwing them, chunking them right there in the middle of the field. Of course, yard gets shut down, man. And it would trip me out because, like, if it was the Sureños or the whites, the Woods, brother, right? The blacks or Norteños getting off, it would have been a lockdown. They had to figure some shit out, you know, and then maybe release us the next day and lock down the group that was fucking the aggressor, or maybe lock down the 2 groups if it was 2 different groups. And if it went to that point, man, it was pretty much going to be a melee or a riot on the yard. But when the paisas got down, it was like, whatever, man. They didn't even shut the yard down. They fucking had us lay on the ground, got these motherfuckers, escorted them straight to the hole, and resume yard, right? So it was like really no big deal. Anyways, and I think that's because of that stigma that's put out there, man. Like, the paisas don't really pose that much of a threat. But anyone who's ever done time with them, homes, they will stab the shit out of you. They will put in that work, homes. You won't see it coming. They're very calculated, shrewd people, you know. Coolest, the paisas are some of the coolest gente that you're going to run into, just like the Usos, man, just like the others, the other car. But at the same time, homes, don't sleep on them. You don't sleep on no paisas, man. Now, there ain't a lot of them in the state, as much of them as they are in the feds. You know, because a lot of them get caught in drug cases, murders, things of that nature, at the direction of whatever. But there are going to be some in the state. Now, there's another bad stigma people put on them, that a lot of the paisas in there on bad cases and they're not checking paperwork. Again, that's a lie, man. That's propaganda. You know, like I said, they function up under the Southsiders, man. So best believe there's not going to be a fucking a paisa on the yard that has bad paperwork. And if he does, he's going to get dealt with swiftly by the South. That's just how it goes. So anyways, the North didn't really we were hands off when it came to that, homes. Let them do their thing. You know, we had respect and love for the paisas, but at the same time, they functioned how they function. It's been like that. You know, shit ain't going to change. So anyways, this a Salvadorian and this little paisa, I think he was from Monterrey, they go to the hole. Bam, they're in the hole for a while, man. They eventually get released back to the yard. Neither one of them put an enemy chrono in. Neither one of them 8-12 each other. And there was a lot of people doing that at this time, man. You'd get into it, and automatically the system would do that. You know, they put you on his enemy list, and then someone had to get shipped out. One would get shipped out, and more than likely both would get shipped out. You go to ICC to committee. It was basically a whole bunch of gente, and they'll tell you where you're going based on your points, based on, you know, who was the aggressor. But these guys both got released back to the yard, so we already knew there was going to be some fun. There was some tension. So we were eating popcorn, homes, watching it, taking a backseat to the bullshit. And these paisas started to form 2 groups. They started to break off. A lot of the paisas that were there were upset with the vato from Monterrey for taking flight all over a game. for jeopardizing, the program. And then there was a lot of paisas that were rolling with the Salvadorian. They didn't like they thought, hey, raza's a raza. Even though he's not Mexican, it doesn't matter. He's still Latino, homes. We should all function together. That's how they felt. And I could understand that, numbers play a big thing in prison. Numbers are en route to power. The more numbers you have, the more soldados you have, you're more comfortable. You can live a little bit better. So there was a lot of these old school paisas, vatos that have been down a little while that were trying to politic and basically tell them like, hey, homes, we all got to come together, let that shit go. It was all over soccer. But the one from Monterrey was like, fuck that, homes, fuck these guys. They're not Mexican, right? He was on his shit. And the Salvadorians were like, they were tired of getting, people fucking judging them or whatever it was. Basically, not bullying them because they weren't being bullied, homie. They were about the business. But basically, they weren't the odd men out. They were going to show people. So, I started to see them break off into two groups. And it got to the point where the paisas were actually kicking it in different areas, man. They weren't getting along. They were beefing. There was a few fights that happened. We were on our way to chow, man. A couple paisas got into it. Started chunking them right in the chow. Mace everywhere, man. I remember, man, it was chicken night too. It was a bad day. So anyways, people are starting to trip, man. There's a lot of conversations being held. I remember the homies were like, hey, bro, keep an eye on these paisas. They're going to fucking fight each other. Or, the Southsiders are going to get in their head and manipulate it into taking flight on us. Because that's usually what would happen, man. If you see there's already a wreck going to happen, fuck you, utilize it. You know what I mean? Hey, why you about to do it? Get along. I said, get the busters. You know what I mean? It'd be fucked up. And best believe the Norteños were aware at all times, we started to post up a little bit closer watching these vatos, even though this was a 50-50 yard and we were non-active Norteños, meaning we weren't functioning under the NF's, umbrella, we still were functioning as Norteños. That's, if you could comprehend that, we still kicked it amongst each other. We still were considered Northerners. That was just how it was on that yard. So anyways, these vatos are fucking, They're getting at each other, man. They're getting at each other. There's a lot of wolfing going on. You could start to notice the tension. You could feel it in the air. And so anyways, these vatos from El Salvador, man, they were smart, right? They got at a whole bunch of these OG paisas and let them know that they were going to put a move down, man. That they were going to hit this dude from Monterrey. And he had this big-ass dude, man. This dude, I think he was from, where was he from, man? He wasn't Oaxacan, man. He was somewhere right there by Oaxaca, right? But he was a little short, stocky dude, dark, ugly as fuck, right? We used to call him mugre, just ugly, right? But was with the business, man. From what I heard, he already had a couple bodies under his belt, one that they didn't know and one that they did. So, he was to be basically targeted, man. If anything, keep your eyes on him and the one big dude, because these vatos right here were the ones that were posing threat. Even the Southsiders, it was a trip, man. Because there was a lot of paisas in there, but they were in there for some sick shit, some crazy shit, right? Straight killers, hitters. A lot of the Southsiders embraced them dudes, man. Them dudes were fucking considered righteous, The other ones, they didn't fool with too much, man. It was they had love and respect, but it was like, they kept them at a distance. It was like, So anyways, these vatos, man, they executed a plan, right? They said, hey, they were going to wait. They were smart, homes. They went out to the soccer field and they stood on one side of the soccer field. And of course, all the paisas that were tripping off these vatos were on the other side. They were playing. They were playing. So they were like, hey, you guys want to play? Because they wanted to fucking rough them up. The vatos weren't playing soccer. I said they were playing rugby, right? So they wanted rugby, get into some rugbyization. But them dudes had already something planned. They had brought a few pieces out to the yard, man. They were going to get off. They were smart. They waited till these vatos were all tired. One thing about paisas, though, man, them vatos could play soccer for fucking 365 days of the year straight. And just normal. Pouring the sweat, drinking fucking, the horchata, and then right back to the fucking, cell, bird bath, right back to soccer. So they weren't too tired, but they were like, hey, they figured that if these vatos got just a little bit tired, man, they could get off. So the day that this shit happened, I remember, man, it was hot as fuck. It was like July. And man, one thing about Jamestown is it doesn't get as hot as it does, say, in Corcoran or, the further south you go. But man, Central Valley's hot, homes. And it was well over the hundreds. And I remember we were dying on that yard that day. Like, fuck, hey, everybody was drinking Kool-Aid and water. You drink a lot of water, stay hydrated. And it was just one of those days, man. No one's thinking about kicking shit off, doing removals, politicking, none of that, homes. We were doing what we were doing, but no one's thinking about fucking gang banging, tripping. No paperwork's being checked this day. It's too hot, right? But these paisas had a different plan. So these vatos come out from El Salvador And all three of them, or 3 or 4 of them, are strapped up, homes. There was 3 of them. And they were ready. Okay, they were ready. They figured, if one of them was to just get off, then the other 2 would get smashed on. So all 3 were going to go together. Now, these weren't crime partners. They didn't even know each other from a cold bowl of soup. But at the same time, they stuck together because they were the same ethnicity. And that's how it is, man. You have to adapt to your surroundings. You have to stick with who you know. Roll with what you go. And that's what it is. And like I said, this wasn't a fucking dangerous, crazy yard where stabbings were happening all the time. But these guys were going to take it to a whole nother level. So when they came out, these vatos are playing soccer. And of course, like they did every day, another argument starts, right? And these 2 paisas, they're on the same team. Hey, do your defense. That's it, right? They're about to chunk them. And man, when they all turn to walk, they say yard recall. When they all turn to walk that way, these motherfucking Salvadorians got in the mix. So there's a big group of paisas and they're walking towards the Southsiders so they can hit the track and start hitting their buildings. Because all the buildings are out. So they can start walking to their buildings. Not everyone's in the same spot, right? These vatos blended in on each area, homes. One on that side, one on that side, and they just started sticking fools. You started seeing fools not fall out because they had little fucking beat up pieces, right? You started seeing fools running everywhere. There was paisas running everywhere, paisas chunking them. They started fighting each other. They got off. They got off, and I was telling the little homie that I was like, hey, bro, your people got off. That was the first time I had ever seen, a civil war between the paisas on a yard. Usually there's not very many of them. They stick together, man. And like I said, they function up under the Southsiders, man, and they're usually in the mix doing their thing. You don't really see that. Again, man, on this yard, like I said, it wasn't a soft yard, but it was a wiggle yard, meaning that everybody was there just kind of chilling out. It was what it was. Wasn't, most of the guys that were lifers, weren't trying to, they didn't give a fuck. They just wanted to kick it in a programming yard, a yard that they can fucking just mellow out in. There's a lot of guys that do that. They go to prison, man. They've been through the fucking trenches. They've been on the 180s, 4 yards. And when they finally get their points dropped to 3s, and they finally get to a place that's kicked back and it's not fucking rocking, they just want to chill, man. Imagine having to go through the struggle all the time. That's like freedom to them. Being able to go to the yard, get their commissary, their packages, visiting, that's them perks right there is what people fight for decades in prison, for social status of equality, to be able to do things like that. So anyways, these vatos got off, yard gets slammed down, fucking they're snatching paisas up everywhere, right? So anyways, the paisas go on lockdown, man. They're on lockdown for about 2 weeks. We're going back to the yard. Everything's cool. They make sure it's not a north and south incident. The Rangers are like, we don't know, Wesley, right? And the blacks are like, oh shit, brother, right? And the Woods are like, fuck you, Wood. You got coffee. Everybody's happy. And they released these paisas to the yard. Now, I guess that big paisa that I told you about, his celly was a Southsider. So that's what Ren was getting at him, like, hey, homie, a lot of your homeboys were running and shit. A lot of the carro was fucking, that was fraudulent shit. You need to, because they already took the Salvadorians, they're gone. They're going to catch a shoot term. No one died, but they stabbed a couple of these dudes pretty good, right? So them dudes went to the infirmary. Everyone's in the hole. The paisas that got to go back to the building went back to the building on lockdown. So they're getting at this big dude like, hey, handle your people. So anyways, he gets at a few of these little youngsters, young paisas, and told them that they need to start fucking removing, and fucking getting off on these dudes that were running. Well, one of those little youngsters was a runner too. He was actually running. So trip out, right? 2 of the youngsters that were supposed to be hitters, man, that was supposed to be getting off on these dudes, and they weren't going to stab them up. They were just going to beat them up and get them off, get them off the yard. These guys would know not to come back. They jumped the other one, right? And there was one and done, and they jumped him, and he beat the shit out of both of them. And they all went to the hole, and after that, the big paisa came out, had a little junta with his people, and he killed that noise, man. That was pretty much it. But, that goes to show you in prison, you never know what a day brings. You never know, man, when there's civil war and inner turmoil. It seems like most of the time when you're incarcerated and you're doing time, most of the shit, the bullshit is going to be within your own, because of arguments, because, it's hard to do time with, just because you guys claim the same gang or you guys are from the same area, it doesn't mean you get along all the time, and you're forced to come together as a people for the betterment of your push, but it doesn't mean that you like it. There's a lot of vatos in there that can't stand the way the homie from Sakura's breath smells, or the homeboy from Sakura can't smell the way the fucking, can't stand the way the fucking this vato from Modesto shit stinks. But, you gotta fucking sell up, you gotta be together, you gotta be homies. And that's what it is. The paisas, homes, like I said, they're a different animal. It's a different group. Their politics are not as heavy as, say, you know, the North and South, Chicanos, blacks or whites. But they do wiggle. And there are times when I've seen them move smooth with that purpose. Anyways, I told the little homie that. He was like, damn, fool. He said, my own people was beating up on each other. I said, yeah, they broke pieces out, homes. One thing about Mexicans, homes, they use metal. Anyways, with that being said, I just wanted to throw that story out there. Yes, Jamestown, it went down, and the paisas did rush the paisas. And eventually, everyone went back to normal and, you know, soccer time. You know, go! And that was that. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Just a little funny story, man, to tell you guys this afternoon. Hope that you get everything that you want coming. I appreciate all the support I've been getting. Gracias. Highly appreciated. Thank you guys so much, man. And on we go. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, to struggle, and strive for what I truly and honestly believe in, man. And that's bringing you the best entertainment I can. Giving you guys real, true stories, facts. And also at the same time, man, showing love to the black and brown, man. Woods, I got you, brothers. Bang, bang.